14-year-old kid overdosed over the holidays and died. There's 200 kids from kindergarten to 12th grade in this school. And so everybody knows each other, right? This kid was in 9th grade. He apparently took ecstasy for the first time and died on the holidays. And it crushed me when I even say it. I'm so affected by it because my son is... He's 9.
My niece doesn't know her mom. She looks at pictures of her and she can say that's mommy. She was 1.5 years. She has no recollection of like anything.
You said, I want and I'm trying. And like those two things, wanting and trying, don't produce. So I would just suggest you stop saying wanting and trying and just do it.
What my boyfriend said to me when he got out was, I learned more about the drugs than I knew before I even went in there. And so when he said that to me, I'm like, that's crazy. Almost everybody I know that's gone to rehab, my sister didn't, but my brother went 8 times. Every single time he got out, he overdosed.
An entrepreneur straight out of New York City, Michael Chernow. What's cracking?
What up, everybody? Welcome back to the Kreatures of Habit Podcast for another episode of excitement, fire, and energy. I've got a guest today who is an elite level HYROX athlete. She is a coach, but most importantly, she's a mentor. She founded a 501c3 organization called the Brie Rowley Foundation that supports children who have lost a parent to overdose. And Shaina lost her sister, Brie, to an overdose, and her sister had a child. And Shaina is now in charge of that child and just finished telling me how she's now her best friend. And it's really devastating, the epidemic that we have in this country, specifically around opioids and fentanyl. I've been doing a lot of content about it because it is so intense and fatal, and people are dying every 5 minutes. Somebody is overdosing on fentanyl in this country. Every 5 minutes, somebody is overdosing on fentanyl in this country. I'm really excited to have Shaina here to talk about her organization, and of course also HYROX, because that's something that I'm super stoked on. HYROX. I'm hoping to do a few HYROXes this year. I did one last year and absolutely loved it, even though it was brutal. But I want to hear about what goes into the coaching for HYROX, because it's a very kind of specific style of training. Really, it's taken the hybrid athlete to a whole nother level, quite frankly. Hybrid training, I think, is not something that's new, but hybrid training in a race format is new. And I want to hear all about it. Welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me.
So why don't you tell us a little bit about how, your journey in fitness, before we get into the organization, I really want to know, or the foundation, I really want to know about your journey and fitness and how it all came to be.
Okay, so growing up, I played 2 sports my whole life, basketball and softball. Literally, basketball is my one love. I didn't have the best life growing up, just really hard. And I always dabbled in sports because it just made me so happy. It was like my escape from everything.
Rough at home.
Yeah. Just not the best upbringing. Love my parents. It just wasn't the best.
Wasn't ideal.
Yeah, it wasn't ideal. That's a good one. Good word. So I always was into fitness, into sports, all of that good stuff. And my brother and my sister were dabbling in drugs. And I never had any passion to go down that route, mainly one, because I was watching them do it. And it just steered me away from that completely. So I was constantly always in sports my whole life. My dad had put me in t-ball, and then I think I started basketball in 5th grade, and then I just became obsessed with it. I was outside teaching myself every day something new, and then played in high school. I started varsity for both sports, and I just was really focused on that. I was more focused on sports than I was in my grades, so by the time I was a senior, my brother was actually addicted to heroin, and I was so worried about him all the time that I would just not show up to school. I would just literally hide in my closet. And until my mom went to work, I would just sit there, literally patiently wait to hear the door close, because I'm don't want to go to school because what if my brother overdoses? Like something like that. So I had like, I think it was like 100 days I went to school senior year, and like you can't even graduate when you go to school like at all, you know? Every year I had an attendance appeal. I literally only got into college because I was good at sports. Like my GPA was awful. And I just was so distracted by everything that was around me. But when I had sports in my life, it was just everything to me. Like when I stepped on the basketball court, nothing else bothered me. Nothing else was in my mind besides that. So ended up going to a JUCO school because I couldn't get into literally any other school. So I went to Dean College. I played basketball and softball there. And it was actually really fun because the competition was everybody wanted to go D1. So it wasn't like just everybody who makes fun of JUCO. Like it's actually a really good competition and a really good time. So I went there, and then I transferred to a 4-year school after taking a year off, and I went to Coastal Carolina, and I was going to go and play there. And then things with my sister just plummeted, and I dropped out, and still don't have a college degree to this day because I started, doing things for Paisley and my foundation and all that good stuff. But then once I knew I couldn't really play basketball anymore or do stuff like that, I got into HYROX. So I'm like, what can I do that's going to keep me busy and keep me the athlete that I am? So then I found HYROX.
When was that?
2 years ago. Yeah, two-ish years ago I found it. This girl and this guy brought it to my gym that I go to, and they competed it, and then everybody just started doing it. And I was like, oh my God. So the first one I went to was in Houston, and not that many people were doing it yet. So I ended up getting 3rd in my age group and 8th overall. And I was like, I could do this. So I was like disappointed that I got 3rd because I wanted to go to Worlds, and it was like right around the corner.
So were you doing open or pro?
I did open.
Okay.
So I did the open, I got 115. And I was like, oh, okay, I could do this. So the World Championship was like, I think the invite was like right away, and then you went away like 2 months later to, I don't even remember where it was. Oh, United Kingdom. So I'm like, oh no, I could do this. So then I called my dad who lives in Florida. I'm like, I'm flying to Miami, and I'm going to win that race, and then I'm going to go to the championship. That's what I did. I flew there.
Let's
I
go.
won the race and got to go to the championship. And it was just such a high. Like when I got there and it was on the beach, I'm like, how am I going to do this? There's no way I'm going to win this. And then I just dialed in, and my dad, like every lunge I took, he was just like, do it for Aunt Kathy, do it for this person, do it for your sister. And like just having him
Was
there.
he there?
Yeah, my dad was there. Yeah. I'm like, I'm flying to Miami, so get there, because he lives in Port St. Lucie. So my brother and him came, and it was just so funny because that was literally like 2 weeks after Houston. I ended up being in a boot after Houston and trained in the boot. And I was like, I'll just take the boot off right when I get to Miami.
So you got the boot from the Houston race?
Yeah. And then I was like, I'll just train in the boot and I'll be fine. And then I had like a little small fracture like in my ankle or something. I'm like, I'm still going. I'm still going to win. And then I did. And then I got to go to the championship. And the championship is like, everybody has to do pro. You have to go to pro weight. And I was just like not ready for that. Like it was so hard and so much competition, but it was such a good experience. Except when I went to the UK, I got like really homesick. I stayed in my room for like 3 days.
Oh no.
Yeah, nobody was nice there. So I was just like, I don't want to come here. I didn't want to be there. But
And that was like last year?
That was 2 years ago, because this one was France. But yeah, that was 2 years ago. Yep.
If you had to describe HYROX, like how would you describe HYROX?
A hybrid fitness race. A lot of running, a runner's race for sure. A lot of people say that it's not a runner's race, but it is. You could be as strong as you want, but if you can't excel in the running, it's going to hold you back for sure.
So when you say so, because I'm basically training hybrid now, and I would say this is probably the first time that I'm like I've been strength training. I did martial arts for years. I did Muay Thai, and then I got deep into running, long distance running. And then I got into strength training. And when I got into strength training, specifically bodybuilding training, I like really slowed down on my running just so I can put on muscle. Because in martial arts, competitive martial arts, like you're not trying to put on a lot of muscle, right? You're trying to be lean and fast and light. And so when I was like, it's got to be 37 is when I really started lifting weights. And I put on a fair amount of muscle. I mean, I'm not that much heavier than I was when I was training Muay Thai, but for whatever reason, I've just put on a lot of muscle over that period of time. And now, since I did a HYROX in June, it was definitely like at first I was like, oh, this is gonna suck. And then it was over and I was like, Give me more of that
That's what I'm
shit.
saying. Everybody does that though. Like when I talk to my clients about it, I'm like, you will be in this race and you will experience a high and a low, a high and a low. And you're going to be like, this is sick. Why did I do this? Oh my God. When's it going to end? And then when you get to the end, you're going to be on your phone looking at when the next race is. It's addicting.
So you are currently now like, are you a certified HYROX?
Yeah, I'm a level 1 HYROX performance coach. I just took this course. It took me like a month and a half. My gym asked me to do it, so I did it, and it was actually really informational. It teaches you a lot of stuff, like certain form, how to do things certain ways, how to get clients, just honestly everything. I really liked it a lot. I learned a lot more stuff than I thought I was going to learn at all. It was just very time consuming, which of course, but it was worth it.
If you're writing a program for HYROX for someone who is not trying to win the race, but someone who wants to compete in a HYROX race and like try to get a good time, right? What is that? What, like, just break down like what a week would look like.
So I actually just wrote one up last night and gave it to a girl that's doing a double, and it consists of speed work. You want to go on the track and get like 200, 400 meter sprints in because you're doing track work in the race. Strength training, rest days, rest and recovery. Like you have to rest and recover. Long runs too, like your Sundays. A lot of people do Sundays.
Like how long is like what is an ideal long run for HYROX?
So HYROX overall is what, 4.9 miles at the end, and everyone's like, oh, it's only 5 miles, but it's broken up and you're dying in between. So I like to just gradually increase every single week. So I like to start off at like a solid 3 and go up gradually until the race. Like right now I'm getting ready for Vegas and I'm not prepared at all. Like I just ran the New York City Marathon a couple weeks ago. I was 131 pounds. Now I'm 145 pounds because I was like malnourished. And now I'm like, I feel that I'm heavier and I know I'm not as lean as fast as I was. And it's definitely messing up with my head a little bit, but also like I needed to gain that weight after the marathon. I was literally cross training for the marathon and a HYROX. And like, it's so hard doing that because you're so focused on running 26 miles in New York City, but also competing in a intense HYROX race. You know what I mean? So for that, the girls this week, they got strength training. I think it's like two or three times a week. I gave them a long run, a rest day, and speed work. For mine, I have like 3 times a week for speed work because that's where I know I'm lacking right now is in the running. Even though I could run marathons and my legs are so long, I'm still lacking in it so much. Like,
so when you do speed work, do you always switch it up? Like you'll do like 5 times 400s or you'll do like a 6 times 200 day.
Yep. Like the other day at the gym, I made me and my boss do 200, 400, 200, 400, 200, 400, and we just repeated it.
And how much rest in between those intervals?
I guess it was probably, I would say maybe a minute because he would go, it'd be like a minute, not that far. So if I'm on the track, I'll do 200 sprint and then I'll jog for about a minute and a half. Then I'm sprinting again. I'm not stopping. I'm just in between that downtime, you're just light pace. Get your heart rate down, go again.
So full effort, max effort sprint?
I do mostly try to do it slow and then gradually go up. I'm not the best runner. I'm still learning a lot about the speed work, but it's definitely very interesting because I never really knew anything about stuff like this. Like when I was doing basketball and all that stuff in high school, even in college, like I never lifted. I didn't know anything about it. And now that I do it, I'm like, oh my God, I wish I did that back then. I would have been stronger, faster, like all of that. Now that I don't have like basketball the way I did, I love lifting so much. So finding HYROX was something that I was easily like falling in love with, you know?
For me, the only issue that I have with the training is because of all the years now of just pounding my body, my lower back is just, it just struggles, right? And so anything longer than like 6 or 7 miles for me, I'm just like, my lower back just hates me the next day. So I've kind of just like, even though I love running, I mean, I've run multiple marathons, like I do love it. I've kind of just succumbed to this idea that like, I just don't need to run more than 6 or 7 miles. Yeah,
I mean, all the training I've done so far for HYROX, I don't think I've really gone over 6, 7 miles, to be honest with you, because I'm more focused on the 200, 400 meter sprints because you're doing 800 meters. So I'm like, I just...
Is that what it is? It's 800 or is it?
It's 1 kilometer.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I've just been kind of I've been in that like 4 to 1,200 meter sort of interval stuff. So some days I'll do 6 sets of 400. Some days I'll do 4 sets of 800. I'll do like the other day I did 4 sets of, I did 4 mile sprints, which was awful.
Brutal.
Was
Sounds,
awful.
yeah, that sounds awful.
It was awful.
Yeah.
And I was running, for me, fast. I was running at like 6:50
it's good
pace. It was brutal.
Yeah.
But I feel like the HYROX training it's so good.
Yeah.
It's so
is.
good.
Yeah, you can get shredded a lot faster than people even realize. Well, also because it's the sprints, and that's how you shred fat.
Mm-hmm.
So, I don't know. I'm still learning so much about the running, and I hope I learn more like during the process of it all. I've done 10 HYROXs.
Wow.
So now that I'm a coach, I'm like learning so much that I'm looking back and I'm like, oh my God, I could have done this. I'm learning more now how to like work on getting my heart rate down because I send it at the beginning. Like that buzzer will go off and I am just sprinting. The fastest one I've ever done. Everybody that does a HYROX, your first run's always the fastest. You're adrenaline, you're excited. You're like, oh, I'll just beat everybody here right now. It doesn't work like that. Now I'm learning like, calm down. Be conservative, like stop sprinting at the beginning. Like there's just no need for
It's like
that.
any race.
You know, like I really just don't need to be doing that.
My first marathon, I remember as soon as that gun went off, because I did the Hamptons Marathon, was my first marathon.
That was my first half.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I actually ended up finishing in a good time, but I looked down at my pace when it 3 or 4 miles in, and I was running like 7:20s, and that's just not my pace.
Yeah.
Like that's not
What
the
is
pace.
your pace?
My pace is like 8:15, like my like long distance pace, like that for me
It's
is
also a really flat race too, so it's probably why you
totally
were cooking
flat.
it.
Totally
Yeah.
flat.
My
Right.
watch wasn't really working at that race because there were so many trees. Beautiful course, don't get me wrong, but that was a flat race.
And it's in the summertime. It's hot as hell.
Yep.
Right?
Yeah.
Like I think it's in August.
It's September.
Oh, maybe it was September,
Yep.
right? And I just remember it being super hot, and it was 13.1 out and back.
Yep.
So it was just like an out and back 13, and man, like I just came out way too hot. When I've run the New York City Marathon, I just like was like, dude, you do not come out of this gate hot. Like you've got to doesn't matter how fast the people in front of you are going, just like be easy, you know?
I did my first New York City Marathon. I came out running 7:30s for the first 8 miles. Biggest mistake.
And you don't even feel it.
No.
You don't even feel it because
just
your
like, oh my
adrenaline
God.
your
Dude,
adrenaline's
once
going.
I hit mile 8, I was like, why did I just do that? Like, what the heck did I do that for? From 8 on, it was miserable.
And there's nothing worse than having to slow your pace down,
Yeah.
right? Because you're just like, it's just like if you like intentionally slowing down your pace in a long race, it throws you off.
Yeah, I did it again this year. I PR'd by 15 minutes, and each marathon I have not trained for, and I kind of regret it because I'm like, why am I going to this New York City Marathon like not training? I just like think to myself like, what could I do if I actually was seriously training for it? But I've been doing HYROXs that I'm like so focused on HYROX that it's like, yeah, whatever, I'll just run when I get there. And then like this year I missed 3:59 by 44 seconds.
Oh.
Yeah. So that's been eating me alive for
The hardest part about that New York City Marathon is that, in my opinion, is the last like 4 miles.
It's awful.
It's just the last 4 miles, that
Truly.
gradual uphill.
I tell everybody that. I'm like, it's awful, man.
Just that.
You're like, I'm there. I'm so close. But like, you're not.
Yeah, and you think
know?
you're like, in my mind, because you're going south on Fifth Avenue, you're like, oh, we're going south. It's going to be downhill or flat. And it's just this like long, slow uphill.
Yeah.
What is, I would imagine, or maybe not, we haven't had a lot of time to connect, and but is your morning routine something? Do you have a morning routine that you like?
So that's like one of my New Year's resolutions right now is getting into a tighter routine. This past year, I just got out of a very long relationship of like 8 years, and that was very comfortable for me. So that was something all I knew. Like after my boyfriend previous from that person passed away, this next person was all I knew. So I didn't.
You also had a boyfriend pass
Yes.
away from an overdose.
Yes, right after him, then my sister. So he was really all I knew after the death, and it just became so comfortable to me after 8 years that I didn't have a routine or anything that I really cared about, honestly, until I found HYROX. I think because just the depression I was facing from my sister, like I feel like I didn't really grieve my sister because I woke up and I was like, where's Paisley? And that was what my world became. Like I was actually talking about this the other day. Like still 6 years later, I still feel it so heavy because I haven't gone to therapy. I haven't really dealt with it. I just avoid it. Because
And Paisley was your sister?
Yeah. No, Paisley is my sister's daughter. So my niece.
Paisley, your sister's daughter.
Yeah,
okay.
yeah. So I kind of just like pushed it to the side. But now I've bartended my whole life. So I just got out of that. That was such a hard transition for me. Working till 2 a.m. and pretty much sleeping all day until you go. And now I'm up every morning. I'm coaching a class before 7 a.m. And I'm so grateful that I ended up leaving because I feel so much healthier. I feel so much better. I feel so much more like awake and like present in my life. Like now I'm waking up, I'm making breakfast, I'm having quiet time, I'm taking my dog out. Like there is a routine now in the morning.
What is it?
And
I think this is great because not everybody has built these regimented morning routines that they've stuck to for a long time. And so I always find it to be really interesting to speak to people that are either that just simply don't have a morning routine, because I think that's the norm, or people that are just kicking off a morning routine and seeing the benefits of it.
Yeah. So I would say more on that side, transitioning into this new job that I have. I'm waking up every morning. I am immediately making breakfast. I never used to do that. I used to skip breakfast every day of my life, and it's the most important meal of your day. So I'm waking up.
Bing.
Yep. Ding. Creatures of Habits. Code Shaina. I think code SMR actually. So I'm waking up. I'm making breakfast, and now that I just moved from like a really tight apartment to a house, I have more space for my German Shepherd. So first thing I do, bring him outside and just enjoy that time I have with him, watching him run around, and just take that time for a little bit right before I go to work with him. And then I go right to work and I'm coaching. And then after I coach, I go right back home. I relax for a little bit and then I get into work. So really that's just my routine right now. But now I'm also thinking like, I want to start filming myself a lot more because content is what my business is. And I want to push myself to either get up earlier and film in the morning, or that time that I'm going home, I'm filming. Like I'm trying so hard to get more strict with it because a routine is important. If you don't, a lot
Can
of
I
people,
just offer some advice?
Yeah, let's hear it, please.
So I think there's a few things that you said that I think could potentially help rewire the way you're thinking about this. You said, I want and I'm trying.
Yeah.
And like those two things, wanting and trying, don't produce.
Yeah.
Right? I could just look at you and know that you're a savage. Yeah. I just know you are. And you started doing HYROX 2 years ago, and you've done 10 HYROXes. So I would just suggest you stop saying wanting and trying and just do it.
Yeah, just do.
Just do it.
That's pretty much what I'm going to do.
That's it. Because and I only share that because every single time I catch myself, my self-awareness as I've gotten older has just evolved, right? Mm-hmm. You spend more time on the planet, you get advice from people. For me, what's been so powerful as an eye-opener is as my self-awareness has evolved, I'm able to catch myself when I say things like, I think, I want, I'm trying. Yeah. And I literally now, it's not that I don't say it because it's kind of like human condition, but I will actually stop myself and say, whoa, nope, I am.
Yeah. I just downloaded an affirmation app on the way here because I'm like, you know what? I'm beating myself up. I'm calling myself fat when I'm not. Like I was awful to myself this morning for absolutely no reason. So I'm like on the train, I'm like, I need to just turn this around seriously. And I'm like reading the questions that you were going to ask. And I'm like, wow, I am going to change. Like when I get home, like I got to be more strict with myself. I have to do what I say I'm going to do, like with the filming and feeling better and not being so hateful to myself for absolutely no reason.
What happens when you have those conversations with yourself? Like can you kind of think back on it and say, and recall like where you go with it?
Like literally today I'm in class, teaching class, everyone's working out. Usually sometimes I'll work out with them and I'm just feeling like crap. So I went and weighed myself and then I just instantly started working out with them because I'm like,
you were just like, oh, let me just pile it on.
Yeah. I was like, seriously, like I gained 15 pounds. So I'm going to start just working out. And I wasn't even doing the same workout with them. I was doing anything to just get a sweat. I started rowing. I started running. I just started doing anything to make myself feel better because I knew that if I didn't, my day was going to be ruined. Like I just self-attack myself sometimes for absolutely no reason. And then the other times I'm so nice to myself. Like I'll be so nice to everybody else. And then when I go home, I'm like attacking myself for no reason. And that I know deep down has to do with the things that I've been through that I don't face. You know,
I want to also offer you a little bit of insight on that. And this is something that I've been thinking about a lot myself too, because I struggle with negative self-talk. We all struggle with negative self-talks, but it's specifically when you're gunning for greatness. Like when you are trying to do things that other people are not necessarily willing to or want to do, like be in great shape, compete as an elite athlete. Like when that is a pursuit of yours, having those conversations with yourself that tend to be negative, unfortunately, are far more common because you're really trying to do hard things. And what the brain is conditioned to do is keep us safe, right? And hard things, painful things, things that we have to battle through and suffer through, like a HYROX race or training for a HYROX race or trying to be in great shape and not having the ability to eat whatever the hell you want. And like the brain is like, oh, that's not safe. I'm not happy. I'm not comfortable. I'm suffering. This sucks. Hell no. Fuck. Stop. Don't do that. You know, like the brain is really in this state where it's kind of trying to tell us to like, no, be safe, be comfortable, like eat what you want, you know, like, and it shows up in these conversations for me that I have with myself that try to stop me from doing the things that I know are going to ultimately make me feel good, which is the hard shit.
Yeah.
You know,
my mom's always like, why are you so hard on yourself? And I'm like, you just don't get it. Like, I want to be the best. I want to do this. I blah, 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 blah. And she's like, you just need to calm down. I'm like, it's sometimes like, I don't even try to explain it to people when they ask me, but yeah, I do sign up for ultra marathons, 7 marathons in 1 year. I don't care because that's what I want to do. Like this year I'm running 3 marathons. Why did I do that? I'm not sure, but I'm going to do it and I'm going to get it done. I know that. Probably doing another 4 HYROXes, but I'll get it done.
But I think, you know, I think for people like you and I that really do sort of gravitate towards those harder things, right? Definitely has to do with I mean, I can't say definitely. I'm not a doctor. I'm not a psychologist, but I would imagine, you know, we put ourselves in the line of fire because there's definitely demons that we're battling off. And sometimes when we can latch on to things that scare the crap out of us, but then ultimately reign victorious once we get through it and get that like blast of self-confidence, it does something for our, like the positive emotions that we gun for. The you know, like I think it's, for me, I mean, for years, I found it in drugs and alcohol, right? And I'm so lucky that I've been in recovery for so long, because if I was drinking and using the way I did then, no doubt,
no chance.
I'd be dead.
Zero
shot. Zero chance.
Yeah.
I would 100% be dead. Yeah. I overdosed without fentanyl in the market, right?
Yeah, well, that's what my brother was. Same thing with my brother. There's no way my brother would be here right now. He was doing it in 2012 and fentanyl was a thing, but it wasn't what it is now.
How is he doing now?
He's good. He's 8 years sober, actually. 9 years sober, actually. Yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah. So I'm very grateful for that, because thinking about losing both my siblings is just, I think about that all the time. And I'm just like, it's shocking because my brother was in a really, 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 really worse place than my sister. So how I just view it, I'm just like, how did this all happen the way it did? But
is he like thriving right now?
Oh, he's thriving. Got it. He lives in Florida. He's got a great job. He does Krav Maga, jiu-jitsu. He fights, does all that stuff. That's what my brother fell in love with. He started fighting and he fell in love with something else, and it saved his life.
So I just have to share that, you know, I just had a doctor on, that the guy that you saw on the way out, and he is a double board certified neurologist and addiction specialist.
Nice.
And he is doing an enormous amount of work in the world of recovery in a scientific way. I am being called to this mission for a new way to think about treatment for addiction. And I just, you know, I believe in, and you obviously are very close to this too with your foundation, your sister, your ex-boyfriend who overdosed. You're not a stranger to this stuff, right? It's very, very hard to stay sober.
Yeah.
it's not as hard to get sober as it is to stay sober long term, right? In my opinion, the people that I know that have actually stayed sober for long periods of time, the majority of them have found a physical outlet, most of the time in some sort of fitness modality that they have become completely obsessed with, that have not only helped save them, but save them on a regular basis. That's my story for sure, 100%. Like if I was to get into the world of treatment, I could never open up a traditional treatment facility. The treatment facility that I dream of having, because I dream of having one at some point in my life, would ultimately be a state-of-the-art fitness facility.
That's crazy, because the same thing is what I want. I want to create a recovery center or treatment state that is literally on fitness. You go in there.
It's all fitness.
You write about what happened to you, and then you don't talk about it anymore. You do meditation, yoga, fitness, like anything like that. Have mental health people on the site, like all stuff like that. I'm not against rehab, but I don't necessarily agree with sending people off to places and taking their phones away and then sending them to class all day and having them learn about the drugs that they're doing. Like what my boyfriend said to me when he got out was, I learned more about the drugs than I knew before I even went in there. And so when he said that to me, I'm like, that's crazy. That's, almost everybody I know that's gone to rehab, my sister didn't, but my brother went 8 times. Every single time he got out, he overdosed. Every time. And then the last time was like really intense, and that's when he started getting better. But I've just always thought, like, after I saw my brother go into Krav Maga and that, I'm like, there's got to be facilities that literally focus on mental health and fitness. Like,
I mean, I think, look, I think treatment, it's certainly not going to work for everybody. There's no doubt about it, and it probably has less of a success rate, less of a success rate than it has a failure rate, I would imagine. I don't know the stats on that, so I could be wrong, but I appreciate them because they even if they help one person out of the cluster of people that are there, it's better than everybody dying, right? And so I believe in treatment. I believe in rehab. I think that it's not going to work for everybody. Yeah. Similarly with the 12 steps, right? Yeah. Like I am a product of the 12 steps, and I've seen so many people come and go and die. Yeah. So many very good friends of mine. Yeah. I mean, one of my greatest friends who I ultimately ended up sponsoring after him asking me for years to sponsor him. And I tried at first, and then I was like, you know what, dude, I can't do this because you're too close to me. Yeah. You think that you are gonna, you're gonna take advantage of our friendship. Yeah. And then finally he came and I said, all right, man, let's do this. And it was after years of him asking me, because he wanted to be sober so bad. 90 days, he was killing it. Like literally, it's so interesting when you find there's not everybody this happens to, but I've seen it happen many times where within the first few weeks, you see somebody come in where they are just completely lost in space, zero direction, numb as a ghost, white as a ghost, and then they consistently hit meetings, they immerse themselves in the community, they potentially pick up some sort of a fitness modality, which quite frankly, I always highly suggest to anybody that I work with in the world of recovery to do that. Yeah. You see in the matter of weeks, they're different people. Yeah. Spoke for me at a meeting on his 90-day anniversary. We were supposed to go out for dinner that night. He said, you know what, man, I'm just going to go home. I'm like, okay, no problem. Let's connect tomorrow. We lived very close to each other in Brooklyn. Thursday, I didn't hear from him. I give him a call. Didn't hear from him. I'm like, that's weird. Yeah. Friday, didn't hear from him. Call my buddy John. I'm like, John, have you heard from him? He's like, nah, I haven't tried. I'm like, you just try him. He's like, oh, his phone's going straight to voicemail. I'm like, well, what the hell is going on here? Saturday, John called his mother, nothing, but it wasn't like he was great at keeping in contact with his mother. Anyway, Saturday morning, I get a phone call. John went to his apartment, dead. And it's like, so many people are dying from this shit.
So many.
And let's talk about your foundation a little bit.
Okay. So after my sister passed away, I had no idea how to cope, what to do, how to breathe, how to function as a human. I still work on that every day. My sister and I were 15 months apart, so we were very close. And I was like, you know what? I started Googling like foundations that can help kids and stuff about overdose. And I didn't really see that many that focus on the children. Like I've worked with so many addiction nonprofits and companies in Connecticut, because I'm from Connecticut, that are obviously about helping the addicts. And then when I saw, I had Paisley in my life, I was like, let's create something that could help the kids, because it's not the kids' fault that this is going on. And think about all the parents that are dying, and now all these kids are left behind. They're going into the system. They're going here, they're going there. My niece went into the system for 60 days. We couldn't even talk to her. We could talk to her, but we had to FaceTime with them on the phone. They're watching every move that we made. It was so uncomfortable. It's like, this is my sister's child. It was so just uncomfortable, So I was like, I'm going to create a nonprofit. So I started like doing all the research myself on how I can create one, where I go, what do I do? And it took a while to get like a nice logo and things I liked, but I was like, okay, this is what it's going to be. It's going to be about helping the kids. And I just started growing it from the ground up by myself, and I loved it. I realized that ideally is what I want to do with my life. I want to go here and do this. And I took my foundation and I started going to high schools and sharing my story. And I work with the DEA and law attorneys of Connecticut, and we created this program called HEAT. It's called Heroin Education Action Team. And we go to high schools, and it's basically like DARE. So basically the DEA, they get up, they talk about the drugs, and the kids, they're all talking. They literally don't care. So the first one I ever went to, I was like kind of nervous, because I'm like, oh great, no one's even going to listen when I talk. The second I got up to talk, everybody was silent. So I was like scared a little bit. And before I went, someone was like, don't be scared. Think of it that like you're empowering other people. So when I first went, I walked in, the speech was literally on a basketball court. And I was like, I'm meant to be here. Like I knew in my heart that I was meant to be there, because like it normally it'd be in an auditorium, So I'm like, no, I'm meant to be here. After that, like all these kids were coming up to me crying, and I was like, oh my God, this is crazy, because fentanyl now is so big, and like all these kids are losing their friends, their parents, their uncles, aunts. When I was in high school and we had what do you call this? What do you call those things?
Dare.
Yeah, like something like that.
Assembly.
Assembly.
Yeah.
When we would have assemblies, like I was the kid in high school crying because my siblings were addicted to heroin. I never wanted to tell anyone. I was so ashamed and like embarrassed. And now I'm not, because now I'm like we need to speak up about it, because no one talks about it. So creating my foundation was like, that was my high. It was my way to keep going and like to keep my sister's memory alive. And like, I'm not ashamed of what happened to her. There's so many people who are going through this. I'm not the only one whose sister died and there's a child now. There's so many people I've connected with that are going through the same thing, and I want to do this and I want to do that with it. And for like the last 2 years, because I was going through the breakup, I stopped doing it because I just lost myself. Now I'm at a point where I'm like, I need to get back to this. This is what makes me happy. This is what everybody knows me as from my foundation. And so going to that speech and like doing that, I kept going all over and doing it with them, and I just fell in love with it. And like seeing the impact I was making on the kids, I'm like, this is awesome. So then I started doing toy drives. I started doing all different events for my foundation, and now I'm just slowly growing. So, yeah.
And so what is that? What is the foundation doing? How are you connecting? Like, how are you working with the kids?
So basically there's this camp in Connecticut called Experience Camps, and it's a camp that brings all children to this camp that have lost a parent. It's not just for overdose. A lot of them are from overdose, but we send kids to that camp to grieve together, to create connections with one another. So that's really what I've been doing right now the most with the speeches. So
wow.
I really love them a lot. They actually are part of the New York City Marathon too. I got to run my first one ever with them. So that was like a really great feeling, having my niece there and watching me run. Like that was just like, it's so inspiring to me. And like having my niece be there and like be able to show her that, like there's other things outside of just drugs. I try to be a mother figure to her every day that I possibly can. So I'm really happy that I started it. It's really become something that made me who I am today.
I love that.
Yeah.
I just can't imagine the amount of children that are left behind,
yeah.
With the because now it's not even obviously, the most impacted people that are overdosing
Yeah.
are those that are deeply addicted to, I mean, now people are just doing fentanyl. They're actually
Yeah.
actively seeking fentanyl, but there is a fair amount of these overdoses of people that are just trying something for the first time.
Well, that's
right?
what happened to my boyfriend. He tried it one time. He snorted it. That's it. It's like they don't even know what they're doing. They don't know what they're getting. You don't know where you're getting it from. And
So I'm so happy
know?
you're here to talk about this because over the holidays, my sons go to this very small school right down the road from our house, and a 14-year-old kid overdosed over the holidays
and died.
and died. Over 200, there's 200 kids from kindergarten to 12th grade in this school. And so everybody knows each other, right? This kid was in 9th grade, and he apparently, took ecstasy for the first time and died on the holidays. And it crushed me when I even say it. I'm so affected by it because my son is, he's 9.
Yeah.
So he's so close to that age.
I mean,
God,
it's so scary.
it's crazy.
Yeah.
And I looked, when I got that email, my wife and I were sitting at having breakfast, and I looked at my phone and I was like, oh my God, this is crazy. And she didn't want to tell me because she knew that it was going to fuck me up. But I looked over at my kid and I was like, I have to do something. Something has to happen. It hadn't affected me like that. It is right now. I mean, I'm so deeply affected by it, but I think it was I needed it to be that close to home for me to understand the severity, even though my best friend in the world, the godfather of my son, my older son, is strung out for the last 4 or 5 years, and there's nothing I can do. He's my best friend. He's the greatest guy in the world. He was sober for 10 years. A most amazing, talented musician you'd ever met. The guy is strung out on the streets, and there's nothing anybody can do. And that didn't affect me. Obviously, I'm deeply hurt by his inability to get sober. But looking at my 9-year-old son and knowing that Finn knows this kid, I was like, I got to do something. And so what you're doing, going to these high schools, is my mission for this year. I'm going to go to as many schools as I can because I'm
I mean, just like you said, he's 9, that kid's 14. You know how people are in high school. Hey, try this, do this.
It's
that's
so
the
scary.
scariest part about it. And I'm just grateful. I was always no. People always made fun of me because I was against smoking weed, and I hated it because my brother told me it was his gateway drug. My sister did pills. My brother wasn't doing pills. My brother was doing heroin. And my sister did the heroin because she was addicted to the pills and it was cheaper, So, and then just my niece doesn't know her mom. She looks at pictures of her and she can say that's mommy, but she doesn't. She was a year and a half. She has no recollection of anything, So that's really hard for me. And for me, Christmas Day is so important to me. Waking that kid up every year since my sister died is, I don't care if I'm dying, I will be there. I don't care what's going on. That is just so important to me. I just know down the road it's going to affect her so badly, or one day she'll yell at me and be like, you're not my mom. I'm trying to prepare myself for stuff like that now because I know it's going to happen. But these kids, they just have no idea. And it is scary, getting up there and sharing my story about it. But like I said, going to that and seeing how impactful the conversations are with them, and them coming up to you and saying, my mom or my sister, it's insane. And it's, you leave and you're just holy shit, I need to keep going to more schools, and I'll travel all over the world if I have to, just like you said, if I save one person that day, my day. That's what my father said to me. He's for all you know, 2, 3, 1, 7 of them went home and they're clean now. I'll never know, but
one person hears the thing they need to hear. One person is at a party and just for whatever reason, the weekend after you spoke, and sees kids partying and says, you know what, what she said scared me a little bit. You know what, I'm just not going to do it.
Yeah, it's true. It works.
I mean, the amount of people that are dying from just one.
It's literally a finger, a little dot. Killed my sister. Literally the smallest thing. She could have done all the heroin and coke in the world, and one little speck took my sister's life away. Took my
it's
niece's
so
mother.
intense. So if the people listening here want to help, want to donate, want to participate, like where would they find that your foundation?
So I have my own Instagram, Brie Rowley Foundation, and then my website is briewrowleyfoundation.org. Used to be .com. I'm transferring over to .org right now. You can create your own fundraisers. You can message me. You can come to high schools with me and share your story. You can literally do whatever you want to do. If you want to be a part of my foundation, message me. There was this girl actually that came up to me the other day in the gym. No idea who she was. She was like, hey, I want to talk to you after class. And I was like, I felt like I was in trouble with the principal or something. I'm like, what the heck? She was like, I'm 2 years clean and your story has like inspired me and I want to be a part of your foundation. And I was like, you don't understand how much that means to me because it's my sister's name. I do everything by myself. I'm so scared to like let anybody even help me or even ask for help because I care so much about it. You know what I mean? Like I just care so much about it. But now I'm at a point where I'm like, I have to ask for help. I need people to come and help me. I need recovering addicts to be there and speak with me. Like I can get up and share my story all I want about my sister and my brother and my boyfriend, but like they also need to hear it from an addict too. So I would love to like create a team in Long Island or New York or whatever, because this is all Connecticut stuff. All the stuff I've done has been in Connecticut when I lived there. Now I live here full time. So like to be able to get over here and do that stuff here too is like such a goal for me. So
well, count me in.
Yeah.
Honestly, it's a big goal for me. I mean, I've kind of made a commitment that I'm going to try to do at least one a month, and
Nice.
I'm starting at my kid's school.
Nice.
And
that's perfect.
My son, it's so weird because my sons know
Yeah.
that I don't drink or do anything, but they don't know.
Yeah.
And I'm a little vulnerable getting in front of all the high school kids at his school to tell them my story.
Yeah.
But I do know that if I can help one kid,
Yeah.
and it's so inspiring what you're doing there. It's been awesome having you on the show.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
And, I think just you're gunning for life. Like I could tell it. And those conversations that you're having with yourself, like don't underestimate the potential value that they have. Yeah. They're not, it sucks when that happens and nobody wants to have negative self-talk, but chances are it's loud right now because you're doing hard things in your life.
Yeah.
100%. and I like that's what I know for me. I've kind of told myself, hey dude, like if you were coasting, chances are those voices would be a little lower.
Yeah.
But because you're not coasting, because it's really hard, all the things you're doing, those voices are trying to stop you from getting after it.
I agree.
You're awesome.
You're awesome.
Where can we follow along your journey outside of the Brie Rowley Foundation? Where can people follow along with you?
Instagram.
Maybe get coaching.
My Facebook just got hacked. I actually used to post a lot of my foundation stuff on there. I'm still working on getting it back, but I do not sell crypto. Everyone's thinking that I sell crypto now. My Instagram, yeah, it's like unbelievable. Hey, did your Facebook get hacked? Yes, it did. Shaina Rowley on Instagram. That's where I do all my fitness stuff, and my foundation's in my bio. Everything I do is directly in there, and I'm going to slowly try to build my TikTok up a little bit because I think it's a good place to build a good platform for my foundation.
Awesome.
So I see a lot of stuff on there, so we're going to try that.
Shaina, you're the best.
You're the best.
Muchas gracias.
You too.
All right, y'all. Another one in the books. That was a good one. There is a deep connection that I have just witnessed between people in recovery or people that are focused on recovery and fitness and movement. There is something there that has not been fully realized or identified by the masses. There is something very, very powerful. Very powerful. It is the most powerful thing in my life, this connection between recovery and movement. And though Shaina is not in recovery herself because she's just not an addict, she was surrounded by it her whole life. And she has casualties all over her life because of this problem. And she has used fitness as a way to potentially grieve, to potentially cope, and to potentially grow in these tough times, right? And I know I have too. So if you are in grief because of someone you've lost due to an overdose, or if you are someone who is currently active, just think for a second that movement could save your life, or movement can help you move through a tough time. It's so powerful. It's so powerful. I know it's true. I know it's real. I know it's real. I just do. It would mean the world to me if you shared this podcast with a friend or a family. It would mean the world to me if you gave us a nice review, maybe a 5-star rating. We're really trying to grow the podcast. And follow Shaina. And, have an epic day. Or afternoon or evening, whatever time of day you're listening to this podcast. But do me a favor. Please share it. Please share it. Please share it. I love y'all. I appreciate y'all. Peace.